You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA. You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA.
Hello and welcome to episode 416 of the fabulous Peltoncast, sponsored by our friends at Pagliacci Pizza. I'm your co-host, Kevin Pelton.
And I'm Tristan Carcino.
And we are coming to you from Renton, Washington, home of the Super Bowl 48 champion Seattle Seahawks.
You just turned on the recording right after telling me that you listened to The Notebook alone.
So it's the Tyler Lockett edition of the Peltoncast, the Mike Flowers edition.
Oh, Blowers Power?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes, that happened. I recently went and saw the movie Fall Guys.
Okay.
Or The Fall Guy.
Okay.
Actually, not Fall Guys. Very different movie.
It's
The Fall Guy.
another video game adaptation. And then they're like, we've nailed it on the last couple. Fall Guys is ripe, I say.
And then I listened to The Big Picture with Sean Fennessy and Amanda Dobbins about Ryan Gosling's career.
Uh-huh.
And so I've been watching Ryan Gosling movies over the weekend.
Oh, you've had a Gosling sauce?
I also watched The Ides of March, which has a shockingly strong cast for a movie I don't remember ever hearing about.
Oh my God, what was there some movie that I was watching? Oh, it was True Romance. It's one of those movies where, you know, the Vince McMahon meme, every single name that comes up, you're like, oh,
yeah.
yes. And I'm like, oh my God. You should look at the cast of True Romance and just like, I can't even believe that these people are in this, the amount of people are in this movie. But wait, what was the one that you said? I never even heard of this.
The Ides of March. So George Clooney directed and stars in this movie.
Okay.
But the actual main characters he doesn't star. He appears in the movie.
Okay.
But he's not the focal point. Gosling is the star.
Okay.
And then the other two main people off of him are Philip Seymour Hoffman and Paul Giamatti.
Oh, nice.
So
that's a who's who of extraordinarily famous character actors.
Exactly. Like, if you want the best character actors, you've come to the right place.
I've been called Ryan Gosling.
So True Romance is the one with the Top Gun monologue, right? Am I remembering this correctly?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh, it does have the Top Gun monologue?
I'm pretty sure.
I keep
the
falling asleep when
Tarantino
I'm
one.
watching it.
Wow.
It was written by Quentin Tarantino. I've watched like the first 45 minutes.
Well, this is not a real compelling argument for.
But check the cast.
Oh, okay.
Read through the names. Just like keeps popping up.
Val Kilmer, Brad Pitt, Walken,
And Bronson
Samuel L.
Pinchot,
Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Wow. Sal Rubinek. They knew.
But look, all the way over there.
James Gandolfini, Tom Sizemore, Chris Penn. Wow. This is Kevin Corrigan. Yeah. Okay. There's a lot.
Right? It's just like as you see the name, because I went into this blind. And then as the names pop up, you're just like, oh my God, one by one. It was like when I watched, oh my God, She's All That. And every single name, I was like, wow, one by one, more impressive than the last. All the way down to narrated by or host of the radio show at the school, Usher Raymond.
I don't know for sure if this is the one with the discussion of Top Gun, but because it was directed by Tony Scott, who also directed Top Gun, so it would have been a little weird for him to include this. But that's my vague recollection of the Ringer.
Well, I'll
movie
see if I
universe.
get there.
Yeah,
if I could stay awake.
Let me know.
Anyway, I got called Ryan Gosling 2 times in the last month.
So you've graduated from Leo Messi to Ryan Gosling?
No. Leo Messi has been kind of insane, actually.
You're getting called Leo Messi more than twice in the last month?
No, literally, I have gone to school pickup. I went to school pickup on Friday, and I swear, I'm not exaggerating this. There was a chorus of children yelling Messi at me. It was literally 10 children from a different class. I don't know any of these kids.
So it's not your children are not encouraging this?
No, these are kids that my children do not know who they are. It was from a different classroom that is kitty corner to the one that I wait at school pickup, and they keep yelling. It's happened a few times. Some kid came up to me a week ago, and then last Friday it was just over, and I'm like, I don't know how to respond. I'm like, yes, children. I don't want to do that much interacting with second graders. You know what I mean?
Have they asked you to sign an autograph?
But so then some kid comes up after, and he was like, "Hey, do you know that you look like Ronaldo?" And I was like, I think you mean Messi, but yes.
A+.
He was so nervous to come up to me to say that. And I'm like, I do know that. And also, many children have been yelling it at me right now. We determined that on the last day, because I'm like, Halloween, not just this next year, forever. I have settled into, this is like How I Met Your Mother, right? Hanging Chad costume. Like, that is what I'm going to do. I'm Leo Messi for now till the rest of time.
These are just some incredible references from popping up so far
But-
in this podcast. Is Mrs. Fantasy Genius, like, you've often had themed costumes in the past. So is she just going as
Leo Messi's wife. I
Messi's
want to think. Well, Mateo has to go as Mateo Messi, right?
Well, Mateo being, of course, Leo,
What is
one
her
of Leo
name?
Messi's children.
Antonella.
I do not know Leo Messi's wife.
Antonella. See, I know her name.
You're a little too deep into
But
this
that's
one.
the thing is, I don't want to appear like I'm trying to look like Leo Messi because again, this is unintentional. I have made no effort to look like Leo Messi.
But you haven't made any effort not to look like Leo
I
Messi.
don't know what I'm just doing me here. But on the last day of school, because I was like, I have to get a Messi Argentina jersey, right?
Correct.
I have to do it. I have to get the shorts, everything.
Right
I was
in
like,
time for the... Is it a Copa America this year? I don't know what we're calling it. But
you're asking me. That's great. You've come to the right
Oh,
place.
good.
But I was like, last day of school, I have to show up in the Messi jersey just to troll the kids who've been yelling at me, right?
Yeah, outstanding. Save it for the last day. That's great.
But I got Ryan Gosling 2 times because of Ken in Barbie, and there was an umpire at a baseball game, and he was like, has anybody ever told you look like Ken from that movie?
Oh, wow, what
And
a
I was
great
like,
reference.
Barbie is that movie?
Too obscure a name to remember. Barbie.
I was honestly kind of confused for a second when he was like, you look like Ken, and I was like, oh, especially from that movie.
Yeah. Anyways, moral of the story. Ryan Gosling's great.
Fair enough.
Congrats to you for getting compared to him.
Okay, I had that. I don't know. I didn't do anything. Again, similar to Leo Messi, no, not intentional. But I was thinking about Ryan Reynolds a while ago.
So here's an interesting thing.
Yes.
Because the thought that I had was,
Their names are both Ryan.
no, that was not it.
Are they both Canadian? Is
They
Ryan
are
Gosling
both Canadian.
Wow.
Richard McAdams also Canadian. The Notebook is like all actually Canadian propaganda. I was thinking,
All those
I
people
confused
from way down south
I
coming
confused-
for American acting parts.
no, Ryan Reynolds is from Vancouver. That's legitimately north.
Okay, fine.
So Ryan Gosling is in the movie Crazy Stupid Love,
Okay.
which I confused with the movie Love and Other Drugs, which stars Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay.
And I find that Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, looks like Ryan Gosling.
Looks like I've also been compared to Jake Gyllenhaal too.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I think that one was like a long time ago that you got
October
compared.
Sky.
But
Jake
that's when
Gyllenhaal
you
in
had
October
dark
Sky.
hair.
Yeah.
So it was a now more natural comparison than now when you're blonde like Messi and Gosling.
Not
so I
really
went to,
like Messi anymore, but yes.
so I went to go look up, do people think Ryan Gosling looks like Jake Gyllenhaal? And found many people saying that Ryan Gosling looks like Ryan
I
Reynolds.
feel like you could Google. Wait, so people were like, he doesn't look like Jake Gyllenhaal. He looks like Ryan Reynolds.
It's just probably more the Ryan Gosling looks like. And that part of it just brought in Ryan Reynolds.
I feel like maybe all white guys look the same. That's what I took away from this. When it was like in high school, everybody in school watched October Sky
I feel
based
like
upon the book Rocket Boys.
No one ever tells me I look like anyone.
That's
Which is,
probably a
except
better
you,
thing.
I guess, is the only person that I. But I don't look like any of the people that you look like.
But I was like in high school, and everybody was like, literally every science class watched that movie, and then after people were like, you look like Jake Gyllenhaal in that movie, or it's more like you look like that kid in that movie, and I'm like, yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I think what it is I happen to be white and have brown hair.
Well, not anymore.
That was it. And the same thing, which now I happen to be white and have blonde hair.
Yep.
But the thing about Ryan Reynolds is, this was a thing that I noticed recently after watching Free Guy or something.
Okay.
Confusing because of The Fall Guy. You might think they're the same movie. Shockingly not.
Still not Fall Guys.
But Ryan Reynolds has never been in a highly critically acclaimed movie in his entire career.
That is interesting.
Right? He's never been in like an Academy Award movie. And almost every actor of any significance.
He actually has been in something critically acclaimed. Though.
What?
Welcome to Exit.
But that's not the same.
I know.
Right? I feel like it is a strange wrinkle in the Ryan Reynolds career because most people, if you've been in enough movies, you've just accidentally found yourself in a critically acclaimed movie.
Yeah.
Right? And Ryan Reynolds at no point has found. I think I was thinking of this when I watched National Lampoon's Van Wilder, a deceptively great movie, but
Is it?
really makes you think about life.
Not one I've seen.
But
what was the Ryan Reynolds movie I watched recently that I'd never seen before?
But I was just like looking at his Wikipedia and it's like literally not once did he just accidentally find himself in an Academy Award style movie.
I agree that's strange.
It's kind of crazy, right?
So this has been the Peltoncast on film. What was it that I watched? It wasn't Two Guys and a Girl, sadly.
Well, once they covered the pizza place.
It was never the same. Just Friends, I believe is the one.
Not critically acclaimed. I can tell. I've never heard of the movie, but I can see the movie poster and I know it's not.
Very
But the thing
true.
is, I don't think you could say that Ryan Reynolds doesn't have taste, but there's something about him that's almost like
I think he likes making money. Is my sense about Ryan Reynolds.
being in Academy Award movies helps you make money.
Sometimes
It's not like Ryan Reynolds has only been in blockbuster films. He just hasn't found his way. Because I feel like his things, they have a certain perspective, but just not critical perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, it's a strange career that Ryan Reynolds has had. It's also ironic that I feel like you would describe his career as basically pure capitalism, like you're saying, and he's Canadian.
I don't know. I mean, I suppose I don't think those are totally incompatible with each other. Should we do the toasts?
Anyway, The Notebook?
Just tearing up there in the living room by myself.
Northern Lights are just flashing behind you.
Oh man, if only I could see that. I'd seen
Wait, I had actually one other thought about the Northern Lights because now we have a backlash to the Northern Lights.
There's a backlash?
Not a backlash, but like people were upset. Right, Saturday morning, we wake up, Instagram, every single Instagram story is a picture of the Northern Lights.
I mean, I don't know if that's quite true, but sure.
Every single story. And I think there were people who were basically just like, all right, I'm sick of seeing the fucking Northern Lights here. There's like jokes about them. There's memes, right? There's people who did the hand drawn of what every picture looked like waking up Saturday morning. And I would like to argue in favor of, at first I felt this also. I was scrolling through. I was like, this is actually very annoying. I've seen the photos. They're not that great. I would like to argue in favor of Northern Lights Instagram posts because in 2024, we don't have that many shared societal experiences.
Oh, that's a good point.
And
you've been listening to Chuck Klosterman again.
no, this is actually nothing to do with Chuck Klosterman.
Oh, he loves writing. I guess that's a
He
much
doesn't
older.
really talk in the 90s book about the shared societal experiences.
That's Chuck Klosterman 4. There's a essay in there.
But having a shared societal experience of, because it's also a little bit regional as well,
Correct.
that basically every single person that I know is all talking about more or less the same thing. Like we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
That never happens. So I would like to argue in favor of anything, despite the fact that it might be kind of annoying to see every single person's photo of the Northern Lights on Instagram. I think it is a good thing ultimately because we will remember this moment more than we would have had it just been, oh, I saw the Northern Lights.
I don't know who you were arguing against there or where this argument is going, but we'll see if anyone has a take on the Discord.
It's a pro Northern Lights
I get it.
on social media argument, despite it being kind of annoying.
So speaking of the Discord, if
Yes.
you're not on there, you're missing out on the opportunity to vote for the Peltoncast MVP this year. Voting is underway. But I gotta say, I feel like it's under protest.
By you?
because the vote was finalized before the nomination to include as one of the candidates for Peltoncast MVP this year, emergency pods. Abandoned Searches is taking that spot right now and dominating, I think, the voting at last check.
Is it really?
I think so. I mean, you got certainly a number of votes.
There we go. I don't even know where the search is happening.
I believe it's in
Tell me which channel.
Asides. It's in Asides.
Asides?
Yeah.
Okay.
Abandoned Search is currently with 56% of the vote.
What?
You have 31% of the vote, and I'm tied with the famous Cousin Katie, who I believe has been on one podcast the last year with 6% of the vote. Although that one podcast was her, or was she? Did she just send a letter about the interregnum? I can't remember. Was she on for the dangerous interregnum?
The dangerous what?
after she didn't win MVP.
Oh. In response?
Yeah. I mean, it was a tour de force. I'm not going to dispute it.
I don't feel like Discord is a great place to conduct a search.
A poll?
A poll. Because it kind of gets lost.
Yeah, it's not really what it's designed for, but it is pinned at the top of the sides if you want to go there and find it.
Okay.
It
Fair
is
enough.
Currently pinned.
Again, I have put my blood, sweat, and tears. I have put all of my takes into the Peltoncast. You've heard me talk about the Northern Lights, Ryan Reynolds,
It's unclear to me when the
Ken from
cutoff
that
date
one movie.
is for Peltoncast MVP submission. Is this in the 2025 MVP or 2024? It's a bit nebulous.
You've heard all of this good stuff over the last year.
It's like how the Bear
You
was
phone
winning
it in.
Emmys for
You phone it in
2012.
every single week by doing all of the notes, recording the episode, producing it completely, and knowing about all of the things on the rundown. But here I am.
I mean, the thing is,
I love that you have a single phone. You do like hours of notes each episode.
But here's the thing is, I will say, like, no one ever says, hey, that was a great Kevin episode.
What do you mean?
Because I'm just here. I'm the straight man on this podcast.
I guess
it's
so.
clear. We know our roles. That's
No
fine.
one ever says that was a great Kevin episode.
No one ever says it. Sometimes they say it was a terrible Tristan episode.
I've been trying to get you to have great Kevin episodes, like when you go on the low post. I'm just like, it is there for the taking. And people will let you, positioning wise, people will let you reposition yourself whenever. Because most people don't know the Kevin Pelton catalog. Most people are brand new every single episode of the low post. Some people are, but I would guess that there is almost a plurality of people who have never heard you on a podcast before. Every single podcast you're on, that is not the Peltoncast.
Well, I mean, I don't know about every single
You
podcast,
could
but
come
yes.
from the top rope and just be like,
Start
'cause
delivering takes.
your takes about basketball are actually hotter than most people's takes, and you're way more condescending than most people are about it. Because you always have stats to back up whatever your takes are. You have thought process information, all of that stuff for whatever your hottest takes are, right? So it's so different than people who are just making hot takes for hot takes' sake.
I agree.
You've got data points
And
about
this
your hot
wasn't another
takes.
Discord that I think yelling with nuance is an underrated niche. Which
Yelling
is
with
exactly
nuance. That's what
we're
I'm
doing.
saying. That is there for the and you.
What you have
also
what you have to understand
when
is
you and I argue about things, you're so condescending.
it's true. Yes,
Which if you could
that's
just,
not my public brand.
I'm telling you, reposition yourself.
I
You could have a Ryan Reynolds essence of just dollars and cents wise. We could be like, look, ESPN's senior writer Kevin Pelton never been critically acclaimed, but look at all the money he's making by coming from the top rope and being the most condescending stats person of all. You can delete that like you do all of my other good points. That's what I would have the MVP if you hadn't deleted every good point I made.
All right, well, let's get into our actual toast. First off to the Sounders, who beat Portland for the first time since August 2021, snapping a 6-match drought that included draws in both of last year's games. I believe we were actually at the second match in this streak, which was the one where they played the Reign Sounders doubleheader.
Wow, was that long ago? Because that feels like a long time ago.
It was that long ago, yes. All right, next up, to reliever Kirby Snead, the 1,000th player in Mariners history as they celebrated in a pregame ceremony on Friday. Zach Jabal in the Discord pointed out that I believe 35 of the 1,000 were in attendance that night between members of the Mariners, 2 members of the A's who formerly played for the Mariners, including Abraham Toro. Broadcasters.
That's kind of like a superstar Abraham Toro now.
He's been crushing it. And then like ex-Mariners who just were in attendance and were honored. And Mike Blowers.
I was going to say Blowers.
Yeah. Who could not be part of the ceremony because we learned on Twitter from Mariners PR superstar Alex Mayer that it was too close to game time for him.
Did we include Bill Kruger? Or was Bill Kruger not? He wasn't in the house. He was in the
Wouldn't
studio.
be in the house, yes.
Okay.
So, sadly, no. All right. And then lastly,
We know that's all we have on Kirby Snead.
do we Do you have a lot more on Kirby
Oh,
Sneed?
first off, they had a ceremony pregame.
I think it was a winking ceremony.
Okay.
I don't think this was like, actually like
Bring it
you're
like Cal Ripken when he like broke the record.
Yeah, no, and at no point did he go around high-fiving all the fans. And then they put the 1,000 on
Kirby
the left
Sneed
field
gave a
wall.
speech. But do we think Kirby Sneed is a worthy 1,000th player?
I think the whole point of a 1,000th player is that they should be kind of
Just a guy?
a journeyman.
And they should have a name like Kirby Sneed.
Definitely a very baseball name.
Okay,
Kirby
all right,
Sneed.
all right. Fine, I'll accept it. Because at first I saw that and I was like, Kirby Sneed's the 1,000th Mariner, but
You were hoping it's going to be Harry Ford?
I think it's actually kind of nice that it's sort of an afterthought, and now we have a reason to remember the name Kirby Sneed forever.
It'll be trivia. If we ever bring back Peltoncast trivia in 2028, remember the name Kirby Sneed.
We should do a trivia again. That'd be fun.
It was fun. I agree. All right. Lastly, this week, 2 UW track and field, the men's track and field, for the second consecutive year is Pac-12 champions.
There
Never
we
won
go.
it in the first 63 years that it was held, but won the final 2 competitions. Take that, Oregon. And I did not have enough of a chance to scan through the entire story here to see whether there were any other individual winners. But UW runner Joe Wascom won his second Pac-12 gold medal in the steeplechase on Saturday. So
Wow.
congrats to him.
We beat Oregon in every capacity. The draft lottery, soccer, track. We've got you on everything this week, Oregon.
UW baseball beat Oregon. Not enough to make the
Hello.
rundown, but they
there
did
we
beat
go. I don't know if Oregon saw Northern Lights. We did.
them. Oh, there you go.
Every single one of us did.
I didn't. Sadly, the FOMO was real. All right, let's get into our search for Seattle's best cookie, which took me down the street this week. We've talked about this for a long period of time. The Snapdragon pop-up in West Seattle. So Snapdragon Bakery and Cafe opened in Vashon in 2012. In addition to the bakery and cafe in kind of the heart of Vashon, they're also available just right at the ferry dock at Mermaid Market. And then starting last fall, they started doing a pop-up in West Seattle where, from what they told our mom and I, which also, happy Mother's Day, I should say that. It's still Mother's Day as we record this. So I took her there after we went to the Space Needle. Shout out, thanks to Third Pelton Brother for Talking Taco Time co-host Randy Cote,
It needs no introduction.
obviously. So we went to the Snapdragon, and they implied to us that they're baking the goods on Vashon and then just taking them on the Fauntleroy Ferry over to
love
West
it.
Seattle every morning. So Friday through Sunday they're open.
Okay. I was wondering why all the things are so closely situated to Vashon, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. And at the corner of California and Oregon, which is across the street from Dojoy, is down the street on Oregon, and then down the street on California, kitty corner is Pagliacci.
Now I don't like that it's on the street Oregon. Should we
Fair.
hold that against it? No?
No,
Okay.
I don't
fine.
think so. A very Peltoncast intersection, I would say,
Yes.
California and Oregon. So I want to pause here and talk about
Ryan Reynolds.
the bakery cookie,
Okay, the bakery cookie. Yes.
because I feel like it was a little too harsh. I like, as I was driving home afterwards, I worried that I was too harsh last weekend when we were talking about Seawolf,
Yes.
because I didn't think the cookie was Seattle's best cookie.
Yeah.
Or even like a finalist. We also had a chocolate croissant from there that was outstanding. And
Yeah.
here's one of the things, like, if the cookies at bakeries were better than the cookies at places that only make cookies, you wouldn't have places that only make cookies. They couldn't stay in business
Yes.
if I could get better cookies plus croissants and all these other delicious baked goods.
Yeah.
That being said,
Wow.
this is a contender for Seattle's best cookie.
Hello.
Do you agree?
I think I definitely agree. I ate this cookie. You brought it to me here. The most critically that I have ever eaten any cookie in my entire life.
Wow.
But not in a bad way, but just because I'm judging it from that perspective of, could this be Seattle's best cookie?
Yes.
If I was just eating it for pleasure, it would be like, of course, this is a great cookie, period. But all of a sudden, I'm like, well, it could use this. It could use this. You know what I mean? I'm like getting deep into it in a way. I think taking a step back, though, and describing the cookie, it's massive.
Just enormous. We'll post this on Instagram, but do not have a reindeer tall boy for scale. I do have a plate for scale. It fills up the entire inside of the plate. Like, that's how big this was.
You say that plate for scale as if plates can't be different sizes. Reindeer tall boys are a great scale because they're always reindeer tall boys.
There's a general,
Plate-
typical size for a
A
plate.
dinner plate?
A dinner plate, yes.
You're like,
That's the
plate for
point.
scale. Just a plate. It could be all the way up to a tectonic plate. But I think the type of cookie it is what I feel like have kind of settled on is what we generally feel is the right ratio of width to size.
See, that's interesting because my concern was that it was too thin.
Too thin.
It's not super thin.
No, I don't think it's too thin. You're
But
Googling dinner plates right now?
Well, I'm just making sure that they have a standard size here. So when I first saw it, I was like, ooh, this might be a little dry because I think that is one of the issues sometimes with bakery cookies.
Okay. I agree.
And then I ate it.
Oh, not an issue here.
I was like, this fucker is so soft. It's outstanding.
The outside is a little crunchy.
Yeah.
The inside is soft and gooey, which is exactly what you want, right? And it's not too much. It's not the volcano shape. It is a flat cookie all the way across. I think just eating through it, flavor profile, you can kind of taste that it's a little Vachon. I don't exactly know what that
taste the
means.
Vachon?
But you can taste that it feels a little bit more earthen or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know what the ingredient is in there that makes me think that, but I feel like you can actually taste that a little bit. It feels a little bit more organic, a little bit more earthen, just a little more Vachon. That's it. That's the only way to describe it. If I had one question about the cookie, because again, it's excellent in every way, I think it needed one other flavor profile. It needed a star. And I don't know if it had a star because it is so big. Something else needs to jump out at you. And like our conversation last week about sea salt, I think if you tell me, because it's what is the name? Chocolate chip cookie?
I'm not sure. I didn't take a photo of that.
If you had described this as sea salt chocolate chip cookie, all of a sudden we might have Seattle's best cookie.
I agree with that assessment.
And I think that might have brought out the flavor just a little bit more in the same way that Chikorina has the cocoa nibs or the little like bits of chocolate in it. And the way that Hello Robin has the strong buttery flavor. I think it needed something to jump out a little bit extra more for me to say confidently that this is a contender. I think it is an excellent cookie. I think we should right now slot it into the bracket for sure. I'm not sure if it quite got to those highs of Seattle's best cookie because of having that one extra piece outside of being an excellent all-around made cookie. Again, I was judging this cookie extraordinarily critically.
Yeah.
Which I think is basically what we have to be doing here. And if I am in the area, I'm going there 100% of the time, whatever our Peltoncast travel system is.
The Peltoncast peas?
The Peltoncast peas, it's 2 Peltoncast peas or something.
Technically 1 pea is like detour. 2 is like a trip to specifically get it.
I think
and
this
3 is like 3 is worth building an entire vacation around it. Is the Michelin guide.
I think this is confidently 2 Peltoncast peas. I think it is in the bracket right now, especially with your enthusiasm.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page here. So,
It was great.
all right. I agree.
I think I'm judging the cookies way more harshly now as we get further on in the search than I was at the beginning because we've had so many cookies and we've kind of understood. That's why the bracket is great, right?
Yeah.
Because we go there, kind of look and see, okay, what is generally good, and then we can get down to it, cookie to cookie, and eliminate some.
We learn about the cookies and we learn about ourselves.
Yep.
We also learn about ourselves when you coach youth sports. Do we have a coach's corner this week?
A mild coach's corner.
Okay.
We actually had a doubleheader, first grade football doubleheader today, which was a long day, for the mothers. who wanted to spend their day going to a children's football game, waiting an hour, and then watching another children's football game as their children kind of descended into madness by the end. But I think that we've unlocked a classic flag football play, right? Because you can't cross the line of scrimmage. The defenders can't cross the line of scrimmage until the ball's handed off, right? Mm-hmm. You can't pressure the quarterback. But the quarterback can hand the ball off to somebody, and that person then becomes a rusher or a passer. And again, it's a classic flag football play. We were tripping people up with this play. Wow. Like the defenses had never seen it before. We were like the first ever team to think of the forward pass when this happened. They saw that and the defenses had no clue what was going on. The referees also didn't have any clue what was going on. 2 separate times in both games, you have 7 seconds to throw a pass so that the quarterback just doesn't stand back there for a super long time. But the rule goes away if you hand the ball off first. In each of the games, they were flagged, or the whistle was blown prematurely.
Wow. And you had to like send in the plays to the league for Carlisle style?
Yeah. What? No, one counted and the other didn't. Literally no logic. The head referee was the same and the side judge was different for each of the games. So it wasn't like the same person made the same mistake. And it was both the side judge who called it each time. The first time the person was like, nobody stopped. Like nobody, like literally the kids do not stop on the whistle. So he was like, nobody stopped. You scored a touchdown, whatever. And that was actually a passing touchdown for Mateo, which again, I'm like, please allow this passing touchdown. Because he's going to lose his goddamn mind if you don't. And I'm just like, I don't care about the score. We are winning these games comfortably. Like each game, they score a touchdown every single time they touch the ball.
Are there any sort of like playoffs in this league?
I think that there are. I think there is maybe a 1-game playoff.
How much longer do you have in the regular season?
There's the Texans and the Ravens are the other 2 good teams.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the real
Bills?
AFC.
Yeah.
Texans, Ravens, Bills.
Yeah. You had some good quarterbacks there. One team is notably missing, conspicuous by their absence.
The Chiefs?
Yes.
I don't think we've played the Chiefs yet, or if there even is one. But the playoffs. I don't know. We'll see.
Long pause.
But so Mateo, earlier in the game, there was a ball that was thrown up in the air. Game 1, ball that was thrown up in the air. And he got his hands on it. And I was like, you got to pick that. We haven't had a single pick all year. And every single time a pass has been thrown, I have yelled from the sideline, pick that, right? Because these passes are very interceptable.
I'm sure they are. But
it's not like they're hard to intercept.
I don't think you yelling pick that is really going to make them any more or less interceptable.
An important piece of it. So game 2, a pass goes up in the air. Mateo jumps the route, comes down with the pick, returns it to the house for a pick 6.
Wow.
However, the field only goes one direction, so there's no possibility of an actual pick 6. But
it didn't count it?
Well, it's not a touch. There's only one end zone. The field goes one way and you just restart it. So you get the ball, but you don't get the touchdown. You just go on to offense. But did I tell him it counted as a touchdown? Absolutely I did. That was after he very proudly exclaimed to the defensive coordinator who's on the field that he almost got a taunting penalty for waving a 4 in front of a kid's face. These kids are there's another kid
like for 4th down.
Like he stopped them. He was like right here 4, stopped him on 4th down. There's another kid. We are by far the wildest team. This is not even close. There's another kid who he's lined up as a receiver, flipped off the defender literally for no reason, and I'm like, stop. Like, just do not get ejected from this game. We also had that same kid on the sideline quit mid-game because he had to come out for a play. We kind of lost a little bit. But again, gave up 1 touchdown in each of the games.
That's wild.
Considering, all things considered, that is phenomenal defense.
I agree. I'm looking forward to seeing this team play.
28-6 and 28-7
kind of like the second half Bills defense, not like the first half Bills defense for sure.
Or the scores. No, the defense is very strong.
Like the defense after they fired Ken Dorsey, and miraculously the defense got way better.
It's honestly the exact same kids as my basketball team. When I described if there was somebody who was going off, I was like, all right, go shut him down. Exact same 2 kids. So if you have 2 kids in first grade sports who have the disposition to just go and make plays, that is a great thing to have in football and basketball, defensively.
I agree. Well, I don't know if this is a team that has disposition to make plays, players with the disposition to make plays, but it's time for Your favorite segment.
I deserve the MVP for this episode alone. I feel like I just... No Ryan Reynolds in this one.
Don't burn yourself. We got Mariners hot takes coming at ya.
We finally have summertime-like heat in Seattle. And you know what that means. The three best words can finally be strung together. Something we've been waiting for since the beginning of the year. Oh, we've got breakout performances from Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt. We've seen mainstays like Mookie and Shohei continue with their excellence. But what we haven't seen yet is what we witnessed earlier today in an 8-run performance. Julio is back.
I thought it was going to be no marine layer.
Julio had himself a gem of a day with his first home run and another blast off the top of the fence for a double, plus a hard-fought at-bat to win a walk and 3 100-plus exit velos. This is the Julio Rodriguez we've been waiting for. His line drive percentage has been phenomenal, but the results haven't been there yet. And the second the temperature is past 70, that's when Julio puts it together. For a player they're counting on getting to 30 homers and 6 wins, to have a worse OPS than Dylan Moore through a month and a half is, honestly, great news.
I love it.
The Mariners have been playing the season on hard mode right now. They're 3 games above 500 and leading the AL West, led by Josh Rojas. No disrespect to Josh, but I don't think they'll finish the season with him at second on the team in total bases because Julio is back. They've also not only gotten a much slower start than expected from Julio, but negative hitting performances from Ty France, Mitch Haniger, Jorge Polanco, and Mitch Garver. That's like half of their lineup hitting like shit, which again, sign me up. This team is now poised with a coming into his own Julio and normal regression to the mean to not only continue in first, but mark my words, as of Mother's Day, best record in the AL from here forward.
Wow.
When you're hitting this bad, something has to give. And tell me if you've heard this one before, but Julio is back.
So I had a moment the other day. I forget when Julio stole a base, but I was like, oh man, he's on pace for a 30-30 season. He's like comfortably going to get there in terms of stolen bases. And then I thought to myself, oh, about the other part of that 30-30 season. I don't know if he's going to get there. That's going to be an uphill climb to get there. But look, at this point, I think there's a pattern. Julio struggled the first month of his rookie season. At that point, it was just like, oh, you know, he's not getting respect from umpires. There were a lot of tough calls in there. And like there were all these other explanations. And then he heated up and was terrific in the second half of the season, maybe the second 2/3 of the season. Last season, started really slowly, heated up, had maybe the best August possible as he carried the Mariners in that month. This year, another slow start. Like at some point, it can't be a coincidence.
But the difference is, I'm telling you, this is not even a take.
That he has been just crushing the ball lately and not getting rewarded for it.
He's not hitting. He's hitting line drives. He's striking out a little bit more. He's not
Yes.
hitting fly balls at the same rate that he was before. But I think that's fine.
But
there's a reality. Fly balls are bad.
I wouldn't look
Line drives are what you look for as a
I
hitter.
went and looked it up this morning before the game, I think, like how his expected performance based on the StatCast data at time of hit compared to his actual results. His batting average isn't that far below, or wasn't. This is before today's game.
The extra base hits, though.
But his slugging percentage, it was like 32nd lowest in the league relative to what you would expect.
Okay.
Or among all players who have at least 100 at bats. Ty France was 31st, so you had 2 Mariners right there.
France has actually been hitting some balls hard too.
His like expected numbers have been quite terrific this season.
But the biggest difference is those 2 seasons you talked about, the Mariners were way under 500
Correct.
at both of those points. So to be at the place that they're at, they've obviously been carried by their pitching, and there obviously will be some regression from the pitching as well. But the pitching's just good.
Yes.
And the hitting has been awful.
The hitting has been average considering park factors. Like their WRC plus entering today was 98. After today, it's got to be up over 100.
Is 100 average?
Yes.
It's always going to be average.
Normalized to 100, yeah.
Cal Raleigh must be doing a lot of work for that then.
And Josh Rojas.
And Josh Rojas.
And Dylan Moore.
No, I mean those three.
Lead off Dylan Moore.
Josh Rojas has 13 RBIs, I think.
Josh Rojas? Or Dylan Moore?
No, Josh Rojas.
No, he only came in today with 8.
Oh, yeah. No, okay. It's shocking how few RBIs Josh Rojas has.
Where he's been hitting in the order, he has not had a lot of opportunities for it.
He has 3 homers and 8 RBIs.
Yes.
And tons of hits. To have had Josh Rojas, like, they need to protect Josh Rojas in the lineup and put him in better positions.
Well, that's why they need Julio to play well to protect Josh Rojas.
I was looking at that and I was like, I can't believe how few RBIs he has. Right now, they're wasting this Josh Rojas season.
It's true.
It's the only way to describe the Mariners this year is they are wasting a gem of a Josh Rojas season.
And a gem of a Dylan Moore season.
And Dylan Moore.
Dylan Moore's number 5 on the team in WAR.
He's also getting a little bit of boost from the defense.
Yes.
But I love Bryce Miller. It's been a weird one.
It has been.
But the thing is,
baseball is a long season.
They are 3 games over 500. The Rangers just got swept by the Rockies.
I'm aware. I think what Fangraphs was projecting about the Rangers, I should say, not about the Rockies.
I like
is
this
looking more
one series,
reasonable.
and we're hanging the banner.
I mean, it is true that the Rangers' run differential is still dramatically better than the Mariners.
But what does Fangraphs have to say about playoff odds now?
It's basically still hovering about the same place that it has
Like
been the entire
60%
time.
or something?
Yeah. Also, wait, how many games have the Mariners played now? They're 22-19?
20. They're 3 games over 500. I guess they are 22-19, yeah.
They are 3 games over 500. That is accurate. They are, 22-19. Oh, is Baseball Reference already updated for today? I mean, it's not that different than where they were last season. They were at this stage of the season. I don't know. I'm struggling to do the math. 21-20. As poorly as they had started, by this point they had already kind of caught fire last season. So it's not a dramatic difference, but the Houston Astros is a pretty dramatic difference. I guess is the thing that really matters for them. Mariners getting good news on the injury front lately, aside for the fact that is expected Matt Brash underwent Tommy John surgery and is not anticipated to return until June 2025. I'm reading Jeff Passan's old book, The Arm, right now about Tommy John surgery and the epidemic of it. So sadly, very timely as it often is. But Brian Wu returned Friday for his first start of the season. Left in the 5th inning after his forearm tightened up, but Scott Service expressed no concern post-game.
Great.
Wu said that it's something that's, he's been experiencing in Tacoma, but it's not a concern. So
I think it's actually a concern.
He's still scheduled to make his start on Wednesday.
If we're being honest, it's probably a pretty massive concern. We're like, there's an epidemic of baseball injuries, and his arm is getting tight, and we're just like, it's not a concern, though. It's a concern.
If it was a concern, he'd be getting shut down. As he was
it is
in
not
spring
a
training.
serious enough concern to shut him down, but it's a concern.
It's like a 2 or a 3.
Sure.
Brash was at a 9 or a 10, I would say, before we learned he was going to undergo Tommy John surgery. Tom Ganzone started his rehab.
Dom Ganzone.
Tom Ganzone. I don't know how that came out.
Tom Ganzone.
I don't know why that came out that way.
It's like the Canazone.
Yes.
That's how you have to think of it. If you're forgetting his name, just remember the Canazone.
The Canzone wasn't the part that was an issue, though. It was the Dom. Yeah. I don't know why. It started maybe Tacoma. Maybe I saw that. Started his rehab assignment with AAA Tacoma on Sunday. JP Crawford also nearing a rehab assignment, which raises the question of how are they going to get all these guys in the lineup? Maybe not great news for the Mitches when Canzone returns, and if Dylan Moore plays the outfield because he's not at shortstop with JP Crawford back in the lineup.
You know where my concerns lie.
Is it Haggerty?
Yes.
Haggerty. Oh, we should have toasted to that.
His first hit and his first RBI.
And RBI.
It seemed like it'd been a lot more games. It was only 7 games, and he didn't have that many at-bats.
He did not have that many at-bats. It's all fine. But heating up as well. Haggerty is back.
There we go.
Anything else on the Mariners?
Bring on the Royals, I guess.
It's going to be an interesting series. I agree with that. Kansas City, like, they played the Mariners so tough last year. And you were like, Bobby Witt Jr. is amazing. Like, this team is actually low-key quite good. And this season, they have actually been as good as they looked just against the Mariners last year. So there you go. And then a trip to visit Baltimore and New York. So it's going to be a challenging schedule as the Mariners go for this best record in the AL after Mother's Day.
Jan texted me, how did Luka do today in the tournament and the safe room? Not the escape room.
Safe room is very different.
Hopefully it was safe.
Should we get into the roundup? And then the silence indicates yes. Seattle Kraken. Stayed put at number 8 in the NHL
There we
draft
go.
lottery. The draft will take place June 28th and 29th. So we'll see how much more coverage we have between now and then of the NHL draft. The big news there, the Coachella Valley Firebirds
Hello.
beat the Calgary Wranglers.
Oh.
That's a new team to us. 3-1 in the Calder Cup Pacific Division
It's like
playoffs.
the New York Times, like new words of the New York Times. New fringe hockey team, fringe
New minor
professional
league hockey
sports
team
franchises.
dropped.
Yeah.
And will now face the Ontario Reign, who swept Abbotsford to improve to 5-0 in the playoffs so far. That best of 5 series starts Wednesday at Coachella Valley.
All right. Can't wait. I was looking at the starters for the Royal Series. And I mean, Kirby, Gilbert, Wu. I'm pretty good with it.
I mean, is there like a set of starters? The guys who aren't starting are Castillo and Miller. Like,
no, I don't.
there's no
They're
bad
just all good.
combination. Emerson Haycock ain't walking through that door right now. All right, busy week for the Seattle Sounders and a good week on Wednesday against Louisville City FC in the U.S. Open Cup. They started more regulars than I expected in the midst of a span of five matches in 16 days. Alex Roldan returned from his red card suspension to start it right back and captain the squad, while Josh Atencio started in midfield and Jonathan Bell at center back, where he's become a starter with Yaimer Gomez Andrade sidelined by a quadriceps injury. Sounders took an early 2-0 lead through Paul Rothrock and Danny Masovsky, but Louisville City converted a penalty in the 67th minute and then equalized in the 89th minute, sending us to extra time. The match then went to penalties after scoreless extra time, and goalkeeper Andrew Thomas had like the best possible shootout, recording both a save and a score in the 8th round to win it for
Wow.
the Sounders. Truly an epic performance by
That's
Andrew
awesome.
Thomas. You love a goalkeeper converting a penalty.
Oh,
in
that's
the
that's
shootout.
the best thing a goalkeeper can do.
Sounders will host USL Championship side Phoenix Rising FC in the round of 16.
Is that another new one?
I think that might be another
Wow.
one. I don't know if the Sounders have played Phoenix, maybe in like one of the preseason tournaments.
I've never heard that name either.
Let me go through and search the notes here.
The Peltoncast, every word that's appeared on the Peltoncast.
Right.
To
Well,
see if
send
Phoenix
you-
Rising has appeared on the Peltoncast.
I send you the notes each week, so it would presumably come up. Although now I'm getting entirely episode 397 notes. It's possible, but it could have just been a reference to Cam Rising, I suppose.
Episode 397 notes.
No, that's definitely something else. That must have been a Cam Rising reference. 370 here. Is this the Sounders? No, nothing but Phoenix Rising on that one. Episode 342.
Oh, this is great stuff. You know what has appeared before in the Peltoncast? You searching through something for a long period of time.
Oh, this hasn't been that long of a period of time. So no, it appears Phoenix Rising is now. There you go.
Phoenix Rising is new?
Yep.
There we go.
All right, so Josh Atencio did come out of that game with a hamstring injury, missed Sunday's game against the Timbers. But as you already heard in the toasts, the Sounders didn't need him.
Hello.
Despite a lightning quick counter from Portland for the opening goal in the 15th minute, the Sounders quickly answered with Christian Roldan having a shot from outside the box deflected into the goal, and then Raul Ruiz scored from outside the box again early in the second half to give the Sounders the 2-1 lead, which they managed to make hold up. The win moves the Sounders up to 10th in the West standings, still 3 points out of the last playoff spot, but just one on the like directly outside the 9 playoff teams in the Western Conference, which, given the swoon start, pretty impressive for the Sounders to be in this spot all of a sudden.
Okay.
They'll have a chance to continue to add points during another 2-match week, highlighted by a Cascadia Cup clash again at the weekend. First, the Sounders travel to Salt Lake to face a Real Salt Lake side that sits atop the West standings, albeit with fewer points per match than Minnesota. On Saturday, the Sounders host the Vancouver Whitecaps, who are currently tied for fourth, already beat the Sounders 2-0 in Seattle earlier this year. Potential boost to the Sounders' depth coming with the return of Pedro de la Vega, nearing from his hamstring injury. He was listed as questionable for today's match, but did not end up in the match day 18, but I think possible by next weekend. News less good for Seattle Reign FC. On Wednesday, they did manage their first draw of the season as they held high-scoring Kansas City scoreless in a 0-0 finish, despite 19 shots for the current 5 on goal. Reign had just 5 total shots. It was the first career clean sheet in goal for Laurel Ivory. A tougher day for Ivory between the pipes on Saturday, playing in Portland. Reign went down 1-0 on the edge of halftime. We're still in it before VAR awarded a penalty on a Sofia Huerta handball. A pretty tough call as I saw it. Sophia Smith converted that penalty in the 80th minute, and the Thorns were off and running, adding a pair of goals in extended stoppage time to win it 4-0. Smith assisted 3 other goals besides the penalty she scored. Reign back home Sunday to host the undefeated Orlando Pride, who sit atop the NWSL table with 21 points. All right, Seattle Storm. We're here. The season is coming. Tuesday, they open against the Minnesota Lynx. They'll play the Lynx again in Minnesota on Thursday. First, before that, final rosters are due Monday. Storm got down to 12 by trading Jade Melbourne to Washington for a 2025
Wow.
third-round pick.
We'll always have your mispronunciation of her last name. Or maybe correct pronunciation. I don't know.
It's just...
The city of Melbourne. That you mispronounced.
Well, I think her name is pronounced the same. It's just how much do you enunciate the in Melbourne? Because I think people pronounce it.
You think people overpronunciate the N? Melbourne?
Yeah, the lack of the R. Just like when NFL broadcasters kept calling him Clyde Edwards Hilaire to note that they were not calling him Hilaire because that wasn't his name. But it's Hilaire. It's just silent.
I agree with the overpronunciation.
Thank you. So the Storm can't just waive Kiana Williams, who currently would be the third point guard because Melbourne's trade leaves Nika Mule very likely as the backup. That's an exciting development for people that have been following her since her UConn days, since Iowa game. Or Dulce Finca Mengiato and call it a day because that group wouldn't fit under the cap. I think the most likely scenario as I see it is they will probably waive Joyner Holmes, despite the fact that she was in the rotation in the preseason. And then they would have the ability to bring her back 10 days into the season. They would have enough cap space to do that. So we'll see if that's the direction they go. But that's
Is
on
there
the
a
record
chance
as
of her
my
signing
prediction.
somewhere else in the meantime?
She would be subject to waivers. And yeah, I mean, she could sign someplace immediately, but you do sometimes see players, if they do clear waivers, agree to come back because, she's comfortable, knows what her role is going to be, things like that. Was here with the team last year. Also the practice facility.
I mean, it is like literally as a human being, a lot harder to pick up and move somewhere else
Exactly.
than just staying here if you know you're coming back in 10 days.
Right.
And if the money is apples to apples, basically.
Yes. I mean, because the amount that they're over the cap is, if they kept her, is, I don't know, it's like 2,000. It's such a ridiculously paltry number.
Okay, so I know we have very little time here.
Yes.
But I want to do at least a little bit of a season preview for the Storm, right?
Course.
Obviously, a big offseason for them, kind of revamp the entire team, focus of the organization, right?
Yep.
What is the expectation? What would be basically looking at the outcomes as a reasonable outcome, a best case, and a worst case scenario for the team in the 2024 season?
All right, let's go through some of the projections and analysis. They're number 4 in the ESPN preseason power rankings by my colleague Michael Vopel. If you look at ESPN Bet, they're 24.5 over-under total out of 40 games in the WNBA. That's tied for third with the Connecticut Sun, and they have the third best title odds at plus 900. Now, my projections, it's interesting. No, don't have them at nearly as many wins because in typical my projections fashion, they say that like the Aces and Liberty are at the top of the WNBA. No one questions that. Then there's a tier of teams at the bottom of the WNBA, those being, actually Phoenix would be a bit of a surprise in that group since they've loaded up this offseason. Washington, and then LA and Chicago, both of whom are rebuilding with multiple first-round picks. So that's 5 teams, 2 at the top, 3 at the bottom. The other 7 teams are separated in the projections by 1.3 wins on average.
Okay.
So basically, it's like throw a blanket on them, and
That's kind of what projections look like, though.
kind of, but it's also more. It is somewhat in line with what I was thinking. So subjectively, my thought was that the Storm were in a group like the second tier. You know, whether you want to call the Aces and Liberty separate tiers, but the next tier would be Connecticut, who has fairly consistently been the 3rd best team in the league and still has the core of that group, although they lost some role players. The Storm, and then I think Atlanta, who added former Storm point guard Jordan Canada this offseason. Some questions about she hasn't been able to play in the preseason, but if she's healthy, I think they're in that mix. And then Minnesota is the other team that my projections really like. And then maybe a slight step down to Dallas because Satu Sabali is going to be out for the first half of the season after shoulder surgery, and then the Fever.
Okay. And is there just one table in the WNBA?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think the realistic scenario is 4th or 5th. The worst case scenario, like 7th or 8th.
Is that still in the playoffs?
Yes.
So basically,
but that would be having to play New York or Vegas in the first round. And the best case scenario is, I think it is very realistic, certainly, that they finish third.
Okay. Is there any chance they're going into the season? You don't assume that any team doesn't have a chance to win the championship in a season, right? Do they have any chance of pushing best case scenario, everything happens, worst case scenario for the Aces and the Liberty? Is there any chance that the Storm could legitimately compete for the WNBA championship this season?
I think there's an outside chance. I mean, it would probably require some health issues for those top 2 teams. At the top end, the Storm actually don't compare that unfavorably. Like, they have 4 All-Stars. They have, we did our top 25 players last week. They have 3 of the top 13 players in Jewel Lloyd, Skylar Diggins-Smith, Neko Agwuemeke. They don't have the one transcendent star that the Liberty and Aces
They
do.
have 3 of the top 13 players in the league?
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Okay.
but the Aces have 4 of the top 9 or 10 or whatever number it is. That's basically their whole starting lineup. And the Liberty only have 2 that high, but it's number 1 and number 4 in Stewie and Jonquil, or number 2 and number 4 in Stewie and Jonquil Jones. It's they have better top end talent than the Storm. But starting lineup for starting lineup, they can compete. The question is really, how is the bench going to develop? Because that's younger and more unproven for the Storm.
Okay.
So if Nika Mule is really good right away, Victoria Vivians is someone I'm definitely keeping an eye on. I think there's a chance she starts at small forward on opening night. She's been starting there in the preseason ahead of Jordan Horston, who's been working back from an injury. But Vivians, I said when they signed her, her numbers in Indiana were not very good. She's looked terrific so far in Seattle. We'll see how that holds up, and kind of done exactly that 3-and-D role player that you need in that spot.
Awesome.
So
okay, TV-wise, where are these games being broadcast for the most part?
For the most part, Storm games are on Q13 Fox, and then I don't know if they call it Joe TV anymore, but Channel 13 and Channel 10 locally.
Is basically every game broadcast locally?
Pretty much, yeah.
And is there a national TV for people outside of Seattle? Is there a national option?
A lot of the games are on NBA TV, especially after the NBA playoffs stopped. But then there's a variety of, obviously there's the ABC, ESPN, ESPN2 games.
Is there a WNBA League Pass?
There is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Called League Pass.
Yes.
Okay.
And then Storm games also stream locally on Amazon Prime.
So I could stream any game on Amazon Prime.
Correct.
Okay.
Except for the national games. And then there's also a package of games on ION. There's going to be some games on CBS Sports Network and some on Network CBS. I don't have the exact breakdown of the Storm schedule off the top of my head.
Okay. Around the league, obviously, huge draft class coming in. What do you feel like the impact will be for the league? Obviously, way more attention because of Caitlin Clark. On the actual basketball court, and then for the league overall. Is this the most important WNBA season ever?
I mean, I don't know if most important ever. I'd say probably not, because there's not as much downside as if the thing had flopped in 97 when they first came out. And there were some years where the league's actual future was in jeopardy. Like, these franchises are really valuable now. The league is a going concern. This is a big opportunity for them to capitalize on the momentum of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso and Cameron Brink and these rookies coming into the league off this red hot NCAA tournament. And it's been a mixed start to that. The fact that they're adding charter travel starting this season through 2025 is what they've guaranteed it. Like, that's a huge, the WNBA stepping up to the plate and an overdue move that was immensely popular. So I think it's the most excitement there's ever been about a WNBA season, without question. And I am a believer in the rookies. In one of my 2 fantasy drafts, not the Peltoncast one, I drafted Clark, Brink, and Angel Reese all on my team.
Where did Clark go?
I picked her 5th. She's like 13th in the default ESPN ranking. She went, I believe, 10th in the Peltoncast draft.
How is it? I feel like just for funness, though, I'm shocked that she's not even higher.
Yeah, I mean, I just, the only reason I didn't take her in the Peltoncast draft is like, I was like, well, I don't want to stake like both of my team's futures to if Caitlin Clark is good, but I think she's going to be really good.
Okay. What about Cameron Brink and Angel Reese?
I think Brink will put up some really good stats. Both of those teams, like I said, are rebuilding. They're at the bottom of my projections. And I think it could be a bit of a challenge for Reese that her team doesn't have much playmaking. Like, they lost their best passer in Courtney Williams. But, she's going to be probably a force on the glass, I would say, from day one.
I think obviously Caitlin Clark and Cameron Brink, I feel like they're up there with the 2 most marketable stars that the WNBA has ever had. I
mean, Reese is in that group too. I mean, she's at the Met Gala.
Yeah, the whole freaking class.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited for this WNBA season.
Yeah. So the Fever will be on national TV against Connecticut on Tuesday night. Storm are not on national TV as part of that ESPN doubleheader.
Tuesday night, though, is game 1.
Tuesday night is game 1. The Storm will be hosting the Lynx. So there's going to be a lot going on. You're going to have to be monitoring Caitlin Clark's debut, 2 NBA game 5s of series tied 2-2, including Nuggets Timberwolves, like a pivotal game 5. Could be a lot going on in basketball on Tuesday night.
Okay. Well, I think it's going to be a very fun season. I'm looking forward to covering it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you're going to get coverage of the Storm, unlike any other Seattle sports podcast on this one. I think it's fair to say. Also, coverage, unlike any others, probably on UW softball, where the news has not been good lately. They were run-ruled 11-3 by Arizona in 6 innings in their opening game, the quarterfinals of the Pac-12 tournament. Starter Ruby Malin lasted just an inning and 2/3, gave you up 6 hits, a walk, and 4 runs. Huskies went down 5-0 before clawing back 3 runs in the 4th on homers by Alana Johnson and Giselle Alvarez, but the Wildcats padded the lead with a 2-run homer in the 5th and 4 in the 6th to end it. Huskies were still shockingly number 11 in the rankings last week when they came out the day after we recorded, but they go into the NCAA tournament having lost 6 of their last 7, going from 30-7 at one point to 31-13 now. And they were only number 25 in RPI entering the Pac-12 tournament per the Seattle Times. So as a result, no big surprise that they did not get one of the 16 seeds to host a regional. Instead, they are hosted to the Columbia Regional, hosted by number 7 seed Missouri, who was previously ranked number 12, 1 spot behind UW. But this essentially treats the Huskies, if you're looking at it, if you seeded out the teams on the other side of the bracket that aren't seeded, they would be the number 26 seed, which they got fucked here.
Really?
And I assume part of it is like there's only so many places you can send them that aren't geographically like totally inconvenient, or playing against another Pac-12 team that's hosting a regional, because lots of Pac-12 teams host. But still, like, they could have sent them to play Texas A&M, who was like the 16 or the 15 seed. Like, that's more reasonable for where the Huskies belong. Instead, they will face Indiana in their opening game Friday. The Hoosiers went 12-11 in the Big Ten. I'm surprised that they got a relatively maybe that's where the Huskies made out on the other end of it, was that they got a relatively light matchup to start here. Tigers will host Omaha. Missouri lost the SEC championship game to Florida, so finishing second in a very, very strong conference. This is the first time the Huskies will be going on the road for the regionals.
I was going to say, this is definitely
2015.
One of the worst softball, we don't know where it'll end up, but positions they've been in at this point since I really remember.
They were playing well during the swoon, but the swoon finally came for them at the end of the season. All right, let's talk about some transfers for the other UW programs. Men's basketball, a couple more additions via transfer. Rhode Island guard Luis Cortright, fifth-year senior who played 3 years at Quinnipiac before starting 31 of 32 games for the Rams last season. The Bronx native, more of a point guard than some of UW's other guards, having averaged 3.7 assists with an assist to turnover ratio better than 2 last year, but a 31% career 3-point shooter whose foul shooting does not offer a lot of hope for improvement. He's a 61.5% career shooter. Huskies can have a lot of options in terms of ball handling and guards, though, so that's a place you want to be deep. The place that they were very limited was on the wing, and helping address that, I'm very excited about this, is Portland forward Tyler Harris. He was a WCC all-freshman pick after starting 21 of the 22 games he played, averaging 12.1 points, 7.3 boards. Played a combo forward role for the Pilots and really excelled on the defensive glass. Did hit 36% of his threes, but on limited volume, just 2.8 attempts per 40, and shot 68% on the line. So a little suspicious whether he's going to continue shooting that well. But the Huskies badly need wings with size. Redshirt freshman Christian King was basically the only true small forward on the roster. So very possible, I think, that Harris ends up starting there. Huskies now up to 11 scholarships filled out of the limit of 13.
And still no great Osborne news.
Have not heard a decision, just that Kentucky is not in the running. So Louisville, Texas Tech. Not sure if there was one more
Same as
school
last week.
visited. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other, we'll put this in the men's basketball section, but conference realignment. You haven't been monitoring it as closely now that UW has landed in the Big Ten, but Seattle U finally joined the West Coast Conference along with Grand Canyon for the 2025-26 season, meaning they'll overlap for 1 year with Oregon State and Washington State in the West Coast Conference.
I'm a little shocked. Grand Canyon especially, because Grand Canyon's a legit program now.
They are. That's why they got into
the West Coast
Conference.
I guess it's
conference that all private schools and mostly all Jesuit schools. That Seattle U was like such an overwhelmingly obvious fit from day one.
But Grand Canyon, it's based upon basketball ability and just the amount of money that's being.
Yeah, exactly. I think they have other strong programs as well. But
I was talking to somebody about their baseball team.
Yeah. I mean, Jerry Colangelo has really kind of shepherded Grand Canyon's program. This is like his passion project.
It's going to be a fascinating West Coast Conference.
I mean, I don't know for sure if I'll go, but the fact that like the Cougs and Gonzaga are coming to play at Climate Pledge Arena, in a technically a road game, like the Gonzaga has played here in the Battle in Seattle and will play Kentucky here next year, which is going to be a lot of fun. But
again, financially, football, profile-wise, everything. Football is all that matters. Basketball-wise for Wazoo and Oregon State, this is not that bad.
It's going to be fun.
It is. I mean,
this is only for the one season. So next year, Seattle U will still be in the WAC and along with Grand Canyon.
You're just saying because Oregon State and Wazoo haven't fully committed beyond that, or they're
not going to be in the West Coast Conference beyond that.
They're going to go to the Mountain West or something.
Either they will recreate the Pac-12 with the Mountain West teams, or they will join the Mountain West.
Okay,
like those are the realistic options because they're going to play football.
It'll still be a fun year.
Yeah,
at the very least. I think the bigger issue is when you talk about all these transfers. If somebody is playing well, the momentum is always up. There's never momentum down, right? And so if somebody plays well, I think that's the problem with being those programs like Oregon State and Wazoo. You have to work so much harder. And Gonzaga has to work so much harder, right, than everybody else. They've already established it. 20 years ago, if this structure was the way it is now, 20 years ago, Gonzaga does not exist. And because they would have gotten a little bit of steam and all of the players would have gone elsewhere.
It's an interesting hypothetical. It's tough to say.
I do not believe that a small program can be built. And again, this is more football than basketball. But I think that the way it is structured, it benefits bigger programs more and more now. Long term, that might change once there's an actual salary cap. Because once there's a salary cap and people can't spend beyond that, who knows? Maybe they still will
I don't
dark
think
money.
There will be a salary cap.
I think there will be a salary cap.
I mean, that would require some sort of collective bargaining with the players. I think that's going to be extremely difficult to manage.
I think it's going to eventually happen.
I don't think there will be there will be long-term contracts.
There definitely will be long-term contracts.
But I think that then will narrow the playing field a little bit because, yes, if your only option is going to I make up some smaller school, but you have to agree to a 4-year contract to do it. I think eventually, like, the solution will be buyouts. It'll be like the soccer transfer market. Where,
Oh,
like,
yeah, that'd
you get the money, even though the player gets to go to a bigger school, and that's kind of how everyone wins.
It's an interesting structure that if you develop a player for a year, I mean, again, in football, like if you have a star quarterback at a small program.
So, like what Portland did here with Tyler Harris, like they recruited him well, and they're not going to drive any benefit from it now.
They get bought out. They should have to get bought out. But again, that's still money going to a school rather than to the player. The player would still get the
they
contract.
would turn around
And then spend it on other players.
Yes.
That's the thinking.
And then the player would sign a new contract, would be out of their contract and sign a new contract, like in
I think
soccer.
that's an interesting structure.
I think that's the right way to do it. All right, football's incoming transfers in the past week. Sacramento State defensive lineman Deshaun Lynch, the fifth-year junior, became a full-time starter at defensive end for the Hornets in 2023 when he had 4.5 sacks at defensive end. He's listed at 6'5", 283, so maybe big enough to slide inside at UW, but we'll see if they view him as a rush end or a defensive lineman as we learn more going into fall practice.
Never enough defensive linemen. Always.
And then Michigan linebacker Hayden Moore, he needed the Denver area, 3-star recruited, did not see any action in his one season at Michigan, so he's still got 4 years to play. Joins a position group where the Huskies have plenty of depth, but the two deep is made up primarily of seniors, those being Carson Bruner, Alfonso Tupatala, former walk-on Drew Fowler, and incoming transfer Brian Parham. So certainly a position where the Huskies are looking for kind of their long-term solution.
Great.
Yeah. So there you go.
All right. Well, you have to leave.
I do.
But
You look like Leo Messi.
and I look forward to, as Leo Messi, to the storm season coming up starting on Tuesday night.
And let me know in the Discord how much coverage you want in terms of like live game coverage, because I used to tweet those from Cape Pelton WBB, but Blue Sky is not really conducive to in-game coverage, so I don't
What's the difference in
necessarily
Blue
know.
Sky? Why is it?
There's just not a lot of people there.
It's not conducive, aka there's a lack of interest in the platform itself.
I mean, like, I get a handful of responses when I tweet kind of like a big picture thing, but like, I don't think people are like constantly on Blue Sky scrolling through like they are with Twitter.
I can't believe you're using Blue Sky at all.
It's great. I'm loving the Blue Sky experience. Just need more people to come join me. So, I would say hit me up for invites, but you don't need one anymore.
Oh yeah, great.
On that note,
Thanks for listening.
thanks.